We will now hear the report of the Social Services Committee. I call Magna Godham.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I now present the report of the Social Services Committee on its inquiry into how can we improve the affordability of housing in New Zealand. Submissions to this committee have shown us that New Zealand is not only in the middle of a housing crisis, and has been for decades, but that we fundamentally must reconsider what makes a house a livable home. The Disabled Persons Association raised saliently that before the housing crisis headline hit mainstream newspapers, the disabled community has been facing one since conception. Less than 1% of private dwellings meet universal design standards, despite there being little to no extra cost to implement 90% of these. Kāinga Ora is recommended to lead by example, increasing their target of 15% of houses meeting these standards to almost 100%. We were also told that a disabled person who receives funding from the Ministry of Health, depending on their income, may incur additional costs, while disabled ACC clients do not. Furthermore, they can only access one modification without cost in their whole lifetime. These are recommended to be solved by streamlining a process uniquely under one government entity for multiple homes. This will mean increasing the supply of housing for disabled people, preventing dependence on long-term transitional housing, becoming homeless, or living in houses that are simply unsuitable for their needs. Efficient markets require symmetric information between buyers and sellers. Submissions recognize that for our marginalized communities, including Māori and Pacifica, as well as youth flatters, there was a lack of rental education regarding healthy home standards and their navigation of the tenancy tribunal. This, in addition to financial literacy regarding budgeting tools, are recommended by the committee. On the supply side, for these groups especially, community issues call for creative community solutions. We recommend cooperative housing, rent-to-own schemes, and new builds focused on tikanga and kaupapa values. Furthermore, pre-established communal assets, in addition to local spaces, such as churches and sports clubs, could be used to gain leverage in increasingly competitive property markets. The committee also found that increasing the supply of housing must be proactive. This includes placing more pressure on local councils to rezone our existing urban and growing suburban areas to high density before it becomes an issue in the latter. Wellington Youth Council told us that more pressure needs to be placed on local councils to increase this and remove discretionary and arbitrary character protections, like doorknobs, which prevent prime housing locations from being built on. On the demand side, lastly, this committee does not villainize multiple home buyers, but recognizes that the power dynamic must shift between first home buyers and investors, between renters and landlords. If the affordability of housing must be solved, current tax policy and incentives for real estate investors must be reevaluated. If this cools demand and we can creatively increase supply, for those of us sitting in this room right now, we might just be able to purchase a home in our future. Kia ora.
We will now hear the